So if you had someone that came up to you and said, David, I want to start a business, what advice would you give me? What would that be?
Okay, yeah. Well, I think first things first, again, depending on the nature of the business or the model, or like, how much capital you need to have, or all of your expenses. Again, like I said, with our situation, we were able to kind of bootstrap and kind of start from nothing.
Sure.
But not every business is like that. I know some businesses, you've got to have all the machinery, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
So I think maybe one very important thing is just to make sure that you've got like a long enough of a runway to really give it a good fighting chance. You know, I think some businesses, again, maybe because they are really optimistic, which is a good quality for an entrepreneur.
Sure.
But the runway is just too short. They maybe were doing all the right things. They maybe had an excellent product, excellent service, but they couldn't quite turn that around until they ran out of cash or whatever. And that was the thing that was kind of the fatal blow.
Yeah.
So I think having enough of a runway, depending on what type of a business you have, is critical. I think really having a good grasp on the marketing, I think, is really good. I think another thing too, and this is probably true for all entrepreneurs, but just, you can't be good at everything. And so I think making sure that you sort of fill in the gaps with what you're not good at. You either hire those things out, or you try and hire the right people to work with you. Even from like day one, accounting was not my thing. So, so I, from day one, I worked with HMCK here in Kearney, and they've been my, accountants since day one. And, getting some of those relationships kind of built up and confirmed and established early on is critical, because you can't do it all.
Yeah, it is a fine line. There are just some things as a small business owner that just take, an accountant that can take care of quarterlies for you, or payroll, or whatever.
Right.
Some of that stuff that, you may not have the money for it, but you need to budget, because the stress and the, taxes are something that could get pushed off, and you don't want to do that.
Right. And just being honest about it, you don't have to be great at everything, and really leverage the things that you are good at. Make sure that you can spend your time on those things, because that's where you're going to get the most, bang for your buck, so to speak. But I think so. I think, or just, ignoring some of those things. I think, again, too, some entrepreneurs, they kind of, bury their head in the sand, and, they look at what they are able to do well, and they just kind of assume that everything else will just kind of work itself out magically. And that's not always the case.
Usually doesn't happen like that.
Right.